most recently, Lesnar, his last fight was last summer. He fought Frank Mir, and he destroyed Frank Mir. But right after that, he had a disease called diverticulitis. There's some kind of rupture in his intestine, and he was out with that sideline for almost 9 months. So he hasn't been active. He hasn't been training as hard. So there's a lot of questions on his health. I don't think he would sign up and come back if he wasn't 100%, but we never really know. So he's going to fight this other guy, Shane Carwin, who has had a whole string of knockouts in the first round. Huge power. He's a Division II wrestler, not at Brock's level, but really good. So in my opinion, I'm picking Shane Carwin to win because he's got more refined boxing technique, and he's a big guy who knows how to use his power. Lesnar's bigger, probably stronger, but I don't think he has the technique to utilize the power that he has. So I'm gonna pick Carwin. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a tough one. Going off, the time away from the octagon that Brock, has gone through due to the illness. I'm a strong believer that what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. So I believe Brock's going to come back with a lot of emotion. So for me, it's a tough one to pick. But I'm gonna go with Lesnar. If he can get past the most emotional part, the first couple minutes of the fight where he's gonna come out being 9 months out of the octagon, having all this fury, all this inner excitement that's gonna want to explode and unleash on a Carwin. In this sense, if he can maintain and control that, I believe Lesnar's gonna come out on top, just because of his pure strength, physical ability. And I believe if he gets the takedown on Carwin, that his ground and pound is gonna prove once again to be very brutal. Not to take anything away from Carwin, he's a beast as well. I'd never want to be in the cage with the man of that likes either. And he does, I believe, have superior striking. But again, I believe it's going to come down to if Brock realizes that's not the best place to stay is in the pocket with a Shane Carwin, because he's got pinpoint precision strikes with devastating power in both hands. So I think if Brock controls that emotion of falling into that Shane Carwin's world and relies on the takedown on the ground and pound, I believe Lesnar's gonna come out on top. But I do look forward to a fierce battle between these two men. It's ultra exciting.
That's good. It's a good take on that. Almost opposite of what I'm going with it, but
right.
That's good. We'll see what happens. That's going to be one of the most exciting heavyweight fights that they've put together in a long time.
Right.
The next fight that's on the main card is a middleweight bout between Yoshihiro Akiyama, and it was originally supposed to be Vanderlei Silva.
Right.
Vanderlei got hurt, and they asked Chris Lieben, who just fought 2 weeks ago,
right,
to step up and fight. Now, personally, I don't know a whole lot about Akiyama, but I know a lot about Lieben. I know Lieben is really tough, and he's never been KO'd, but I know he's sloppy, and I don't think the toughness and his ability to just withstand a lot of punishment is enough to beat Akiyama. So I'm going to pick Akiyama in this fight.
Yeah, myself as well. I don't know much about Akiyama. I saw his one fight recently against Belcher, and it was a pretty exciting fight back and forth. And Belcher, keep in mind, is a contender. Moving his way up the ranks. So in that sense, it's an impressive victory. Anytime you take out a contender such as Belcher, who's got really good stand up. And so Akiyama, he's definitely a proven warrior, and is I believe a bit stronger in much of his game, more than Lieben. Just as you mentioned, Lieben at times he gets a little too excited and anxious when he feels like he's got someone on the ropes or dominating certain stand up. In this case, so Akiyami's he's proven to have a chin. I saw Belcher catch him a couple times. And he stayed in there in the pocket and exchanged and even came out on top a couple times. So Leben, he's been around for a while, and he's had some great fights, which were victories and losses. So in saying that, I believe it's going to be another great fight, but I just believe Akiyami's going to come out on top as well.
Okay. Next fight in the 170-pound division, welterweight. We got Chris Lytle versus Matt Brown. Lytle, I know his name because he's basically fought everybody. He's fought Matt Hughes.
Right.
He's fought a bunch of guys. He's always put on good fights, but he's always come up short.
Right.
So Matt Brown, I know he's really tough. He's got really good stand-up. He comes from the Ultimate Fighter. He's a really strong person. I'm going to pick Matt Brown in this one over Chris Lytle by either decision or knockout late in the rounds, round 2 or 3.
Yeah, Chris Lytle, his last fight against, I can't quite place the name, but he was definitely the underdog as far as the stand-up game went, and that was, very apparent very quickly that he was not in a good position on the feet, and the fight ended up going to the ground, and he got the submission. So that was pretty impressive that Lytle just showing true grit, and hanging in there and being able to adapt to the fighter that was standing in front of him and come out with a victory. But in this case, Matt Brown's, he's an up-and-comer, and he's proven to be very hungry in his last few fights and have some impressive victories and battles. He's gone to war, and he's come out on top. So I too am looking for Matt Brown, more of the young blood that's coming in and trying to make his way up the ranks.
Okay. Next fight is a 205 light heavyweight. We've got a rematch of UFC 114. Krzysztof Sozinski versus Stephan Bonnar. Bonner's been around. He hasn't been doing too well lately. He got taken out by John Jones pretty easily. And he got, unfortunately, stopped the fight in Australia because of a cut. And something that I found out recently was that Bonnar did some research on the fight. Found out that it was Sozinski's father that was one of the judges that was pushing really hard for the cut to stop the fight, even though the doctor and Bonnar were okay with the cut continuing. So he's kind of bitter about the fight. So I think with this kind of fuel that Bonnar has, he's a tough guy. He's never been even close to being cut. For real, on a real stoppage, he's never been KO'd, and he's never been submitted. So he's a tough guy all the way around. He's like 6'5". He's got reach. He's got a lot of advantages that Sozinski, is going to have a hard time dealing with. So I'm going to pick Bonnar in this fight.
Yeah, Bonnar hasn't been too impressive for me as of late. He came in, obviously, he helped put UFC on the map, with the very famous, season 1 tough finale with Forrest Griffin. And, and he had his moment, and ever since then, he hasn't impressed me too much. And, I definitely believe Sozinski is, again, one of those new up-and-coming fighters. And the guy looks to be in impeccable shape. Before he kind of looked a little soft in some of his first couple fights. Now he's in phenomenal shape. And, what that shows is that, he's continuously pushing himself and trying to improve. Obviously with his stamina and endurance, and obviously, he's training to become a better fighter. So, in this case, I believe Sozinski's going to come out on top. Bonner's, he's kind of been there, and,
I think he's on his way out.
I think he's on his way out. I hate Stephen Bonnar, I hate to say it, but, you've had some really great fights. But, Sozinski, I believe, is gonna come out on top.
Okay, that's good. I don't think Bonnar will ever be cut. I think he'll be around somehow because Dana values him so much because of putting UFC on the map, having that fight, with Griffin. It's like epic. I mean, if you watch the fight now, it's still a good fight, even though it's 7 years ago.
Right.
You watch it now, it's still a good fight.
7 years.
So
time. Hard to believe.
I don't think Bonnar will be cut because he loses, because he puts on good fights. He doesn't lose quickly. He doesn't lose, in a manner where he's not putting a competitive matchup. So I think Bonnar has a future in the UFC no matter what happens with his fights. He's kind of like a Chuck Liddell, but he doesn't get KO'd.